Good afternoon, everyone. Please take your seats so we can start our program. Thank you so much. And here is Anne Ivanko, last year's Jekyll Award winner.
Thank you, Eileen, and good afternoon, everybody. Looks like we have a great crowd, and it's wonderful to see everybody. For the moment, I'd like to at least introduce to you the head table, and I'm going to just introduce by names at this point. We have our honoree, who is Michael Battle, in the middle. On Michael's left is the Honorable Salvatore Martosci, who is a retired justice of the Appellate Division, Sal. And then we have Aviva Abramovsky, who I will introduce more formally later, who is Dean of the Law School. And to my right is the infamous, what can we say about Eileen Fleischman? She is the Vice Dean of Alumni and Executive Director, Alumni Association for UB. I think you all know that without Eileen, we would never have a function at the law school. She's done a fabulous job, and it's really great to see her. And next to her is Scott Becker, who is the current president of the Law Alumni Association. We have several special guests. If I happen to miss someone, please forgive me. But hopefully we have everybody. We have with us Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. And I am going to ask if we just hold the applause so that we can get through the rest of the list because it's rather large. We have for our judges, the Honorable Gerald Whalen, Honorable Aaron Perodato, Honorable Judith Gish, Honorable Paula Ferroletto, Honorable Kevin Carter, the Honorable Craig Hanna, who is here for Amy Martosci, as well as oh, she's here. I didn't even see you. Okay. I think I'm going to edit my comments about Eileen. No, I'm seriously. Hi, Amy. We have Catherine Nugent-Panepento and the Honorable Kathy King. We also have retired judges, the Honorable Eugene Piggott, Honorable Barbara Howe, and Salvatore Martosci. With us also are former Jekyll recipients, the Honorable Judge Piggott, the Honorable Judge Howe, and Terry Connors. Attending from UB, Patrick McNally, who's the Senior Director of Corporation and Foundation Relations, Cynthia Koo Robinson, Associate Vice President for Annual Engagement and Annual Giving, Karen Kazmarsky, Vice Dean and Senior Director of Advancement. So please give a warm welcome to our special guests and our honorees today. At this time, it's my great honor and distinct pleasure to introduce New York's Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul. Kathy was elected in 2014 and re-elected for a second term in 2018. She has worked in all levels of government, from town board to Congress, where she represented New York's 26th Congressional District. Lieutenant Governor Hochul received her law degree from Catholic University in Washington, D.C., where she served as legal counsel and legislative assistant to Congressman John LaFalce and Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Even though she went to Catholic University for her JD, she has been an ardent supporter of UB's law school, and we certainly appreciate that. I am proud to introduce Lieutenant Governor of the State of New York, Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, Ann. And, you know, I often think if I'd only gone to UB Law School, I could have been somebody. You know, and that perhaps is the greatest career mistake of my life. But I was accepted at UB Law School. I've told this story, but to make up for it, I've decided that I would invest my energy in marrying a brilliant young man, one of your own students, Bill Hochul, who worked very closely with your recipient, Mike Battle here. So I think I'm making up for a little bit by at least marrying somebody with the UB Law degree. So I want to thank you, first of all, Ann, for the introduction, but also your long friendship and certainly being honored with this incredibly prestigious award just a year ago. It's great to see you. And the Dean, I want to thank you, Dean, for all the great work you do. And also, you're very involved in the community and helping even outside Western New York. I know that we've worked together to launch a number of students going to Puerto Rico using their talents and making sure that we share the knowledge that your students have with people who are really dealing with devastating circumstances. In fact, I have to leave here to get a briefing because I've just been dispatched to go to Puerto Rico on behalf of our administration this weekend. So I won't be watching the Super Bowl, but the Bills aren't in it anyhow, so I'm not quite as interested if I would have been had the Bills gone all the distance. So, Dean, thank you for the great work you do as well, but also to Judge Martocci and some of the other judges, my good friend Barbara Howe, who's just did an extraordinary job as our surrogate judge, and the Martocci family, and Eileen, I love working with you. Every single event, there's such energy and passion behind it and an intensity that's important. And also Terry Connors, joined by Peggy here today, and what a wonderful honor it was to see him last night receive the recognition from the New York State Criminal Bar Association, Criminal Defense Bar Association, and all the tables of people from Western New York there to celebrate that. But this is an opportunity for me to talk a little bit about someone whose work I know firsthand, Mike Battle. He is so deserving of this award because he really entered his position of leadership in the U.S. Attorney's Office at a very tumultuous time in our nation. This was literally just post 9/11. And there was a lot of intensity, a lot of concern. We had to protect the Muslim community that was under assault at that time, but also make sure that there's cases that need to be prosecuted or brought to justice. And so I had a chance to see close hand the integrity that you brought to the position, the honor you brought to it. And it was certainly a pleasure getting to know Sheila and your grown-up daughters as well in the process. So I just want to give a special recognition. Mike's over there. Give a special recognition to your honoree today, Mike Battle. I will just close by saying the UB Law School has become such a key driver in our community in Buffalo and is really part of the success. Our alums now don't have to leave. And those of you who left and came to New York City, that's okay. It's a very cool place to live as well. But I'm a Buffalonian, true and true. And to know that there's now jobs that people can stay for, and those who never gave up on that great city that they're educated in, or those who just discovered it and made it their home, I think you see a whole transformation. And the UB Law School is an important part of the being an economic driver as well, educating people who are going to be here for those good jobs, whether it's in the firms, whether it's in the public defender's office, the private sector. We need their talent base. So it gives me pride to know that when they come to Buffalo or grew up in Buffalo and are accepted in this wonderful institution, that they now can stay there. And that is not something that we felt for a long time, but that is really a trajectory that I love to see as we're making such progress in particularly our upstate communities. So I want to thank everyone for what you do, and particularly the Dean for giving me that very prestigious award a few years ago. I got the Dean's Award at the commencement. I was so honored to speak at. But I want you to know that I will be part of this family for the rest of my life. I believe in the institution. I believe in the great work you do, the philanthropic work, the community-oriented work you do to really help lift up people's lives. And if there's one thing that everyone who's pursues a law degree should feel importantly, that it's part of their moral responsibility is to give back to your community. And every one of you have the power to help make someone else's life a better experience. And so I know your graduates are steeled in this knowledge, and we benefit as New Yorkers, but I want to let you know that I support you. We'll be there for you always, and every single event that Eileen asked me to come to, I'll be there. My husband had hoped to be here. He actually got asked to teach a course, I think in ethics or something, at the Bar Association, and he was told it was 10:30 and thought he could make this, but it actually was 11:30. So I need to get him a better scheduler. But Bill sends his regards to everyone here, and certainly his great congratulations to his very dear friend Mike Battle, who he was honored to work with a few short years ago. So congratulations to everyone tonight.
Thank you, Kathy. And we know how busy your schedule is, and we really, really appreciate the commitment that you've had and dedication to UB's Law School. I would at this time, even though Kathy mentioned it, I would like to recognize again and say congratulations to Aviva, our law school dean, who was honored last night by the New York State Bar Association Tickle section. For those who are unfamiliar with the acronym TICO, it's the Torts, Insurance, and Compensation Law section. She received the prestigious David Siegel Award in recognition of her outstanding contributions to the study of New York law. So congratulations, Aviva. Also last night, the New York State Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers recognized and honored one of our prior JACO Award recipients, Terry Connors, of Connors LLP, with the prestigious Honorable Thurgood S. Marshall Award for Outstanding Criminal Practitioner. Congratulations, Terry. And a special thank you to Elena and George Scheitlinger for helping us host this wonderful event today here at the Union League. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Scott Becker. Scott has been an active member of the Board of Directors of the UB Law Alumni Association and now serves as its president. A partner with Kavanaugh Cook and a graduate of UB Law School, where he was a member of the Law Review, he is a well-recognized expert in property tax assessment litigation and is a member of the New York State Board of Real Property Tax Services. So, without further delay, Scott Becker.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Alumni Association of UB School of Law, welcome and thank you for attending today to recognize the accomplishments so far of a fantastic attorney, a well-respected judge and teacher, and we are proud to have him as one of our own, an alumnus of the law school. I just wanted to take one moment to thank the New York City chapter of the Alumni Association, the chapter chairs Daisy Tomaselli, Patrick Reinekainen, and the founding chair, Neil Botwinoff. Thank you very much for all you've done for the chapter. And I know that there are other people in our chapter who are here today. If you could just stand and be recognized for your work, I would very much like to thank you. For those of you who are members of the association, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a part of our efforts to provide scholarships to our law students and help recruit qualified applicants. And if you are not members, I urge you to become a part of it, part of that scholarship effort, and also the other programs that we do. You'll be getting a mailer at some point as graduates of the law school, some point in the next couple months. And, please take a moment and sign up and join our association. So, thanks again for coming. It's a wonderful lunch. It's a great place. And have a good lunch.
Thank you, Scott. And now I'd like to call on Chris Whiteman, Chair of the Dean's Advisory Council, to recognize the Dean's Advisory Council members who are present and to give a brief update. Let me tell you a little bit about Chris. He has been an active member of the Dean's Advisory Council, and through his work, UB Law School has extended its national reach all the way to the West Coast, as Chris is based in San Francisco. He is a 1999 graduate of UB Law School. He also received the UB Law Alumni Association's Distinguished Alumnus Award for Business Achievements this year. And he's a partner with PJT Partners in San Francisco. In that role, Chris works with a heavy hitter list of publicly traded Fortune 100 companies, advising management and boards on how to deal with activist shareholders, proxy voting, and corporate governance issues. From its beginnings as a two-man operation in 2012, PJT Partners has grown to become a major player in the corporate governance ecosystem with over 200 clients. So please help me welcome Chris Whiteman.
Thank you, Anne, for that introduction. Perhaps you do marketing for my firm. That was very, really appreciate that. And so on behalf of the DAC, I just want to say congratulations to Mike Battle. It's great to see you again, and great that you're receiving such a prestigious award from the law school. And then wanted to give a quick update on the DAC. The most exciting part is that in March, the meeting will be held in San Francisco. So we're very excited to expand the national reach. We do a lot of our meetings in New York and DC and of course Buffalo. So we're excited to take it out west. This has been a long time planned, and we're very excited about that. But today I quickly wanted to recognize the members of the DAC here, thank them for their service, and run through their names here. And so up here, Scott Becker, Law Alumni Association President, Jekyll Award honoree, Mike Battle, the Honorable Elena Scheitinger, immediate past chair, Doug Dimitrov, my friend and someone who's really helped prepare me for the chairmanship in this position, so thank you for that, Doug. Anne Ivanko, who gave that spectacular introduction and who I'm going to hire after this. Justice Paula Ferlato, sorry about that. Justice Judith Gish, my classmate Rob Gutowski, Judge Craig Hanna, Judge Barbara Howe, Harvey Kaminsky, who is retiring this week. Congratulations, sir. Jim Keneally, good to see you. Ken Manning, Alan Mantle, and Justice Aaron Perodato. So on behalf of the DAC, congratulations again, Mike, and look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce formally Dean Aviva Abramovsky. She will update us on law school activities. And certainly, she's been a very active and driving force of the law school since she was named the 19th permanent dean and first woman to hold the position. She's an expert in insurance, regulation of financial entities, and legal ethics, and she has written numerous articles and legal treatises, including authoring McKinney's Uniform Commercial Code Forms for New York. Since her arrival at UB School of Law in June of 2017, she has connected with hundreds of alumni, volunteers, and partners in the community, strengthening existing relationships and forging new ones. She has overseen the expansion of our clinical legal education program, the implementation of our new undergraduate program in law, the development of UB's Center for the Advancement of Sport, and the growth of our mentor program. She has partnered with the university for exciting new capital improvements, and you will see O'Brien Hall transformed the next time you go there. The renovations include extensive changes to the 2 first-floor classrooms and renovations to include a large new classroom space in the basement level. So look out for a new invitation to the ribbon cutting, and if you can't make the ribbon cutting, please take a moment, stop by, see the changes in UB Law School, and you will be very impressed. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Aviva.
Thank you, Anne. So I think I will be brief, but I would have to start off by saying first thank you and welcome, but also if you have not heard and felt from these speakers the power of a UB Law degree and the wisdom of choosing to attend this law school and what we can do when we work together for the advancement of law justice in the state of New York, well, I can't imagine a panel that would articulate that better. It is always the honor and my privilege to be your dean. And today is especially meaningful for you, and I do not want to take too much time before I think we hear from Sal Martocci. But I also want to thank, obviously, Lieutenant Governor Hochul, Anna Vanko, Scott Becker, Chris Whiteman, Judge Martocci for being part of this event. Of course, congratulations to Terry Connors on the honor he received last night. I heard Buffalo had 5 tables, and it was a heck of a party. I would like to say we brought the Jekyll back to New York. So, yeah. To New York City, because Buffalo is also in New York. What a great way to start this decade. I always remind people that 2020 is going to be an amazing year, even if for no other reason that 10 years from now is 2030, which is legitimately the future. 2019, though, was exceptional for UB Law. As many of you know, we have much to celebrate. Including Michael. In the last 12 months alone, we've improved our applicant pool, we've increased placement rates for our students in jobs, much of that having directly to do with the people here in this room. For every one of you who has taken a student intern, for every one of you who has hired a student to be a graduate, I want you to know you have changed their lives and you have my permanent, unending thanks for that. We also launched a new concentration in advocacy. The Advocacy Institute is humming along. And hired 2 new faculty members who, if you come to another event next year, you will meet. The BA in law has taken off, exceeding our expectations. Turns out lots and lots of undergraduates want to study law, and we're going to see how that's going to incorporate everything together. The clinics, of course, continue to their great and important work in the community, so much so that the Lieutenant Governor herself just mentioned them. If I had known she was going, I'd have extended their stay 1 more week. So, with all of those, I just want you to say, and of course, we had our highest profile first day of school with the Honorable Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg kicking off this academic year and teaching a con law class to our students. And I've said before and I've said again, I'm not sure, other than possibly today, how I'm going to top that. About today, I have to believe in a certain way, and I've said this before to some of you, that I think it was predestined. For this highest award to be recognized for Mike Battle while I was the dean. It comes on the cusp of so many big moments in our law school, and each have emphasized our commitment to promoting law and preserving justice, but these wheels were set long in motion before I got here. About 40 years ago, Michael took a criminal law class at UB Law taught by my father, Abe. But it wasn't until I came to Buffalo just a couple years ago that I had the opportunity to personally get to know Michael and learn about his distinguished career in the way in which I have. And it was only a short time ago that I discovered the length and depth of friendship and mentoring relationship between many aspects of different parts of my family and the early years of Michael's career. While my father is no longer with us, it is a privilege to honor someone who shared his passion for the law and has used that passion throughout his own career. and to do so as the Dean of UB Law, where access to justice is at the heart of what we do. That is destiny. When Justice Ginsburg came to Buffalo, we hosted her at Kleinhans Music Hall along with our local bar associations and hung a 15-foot banner in the hallway displaying one of her quotes, which is a touchstone of my life and I know of your career. That quote says, "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." Mr. Battle, I think your career has exemplified that. We chose that quote because it exemplifies Mike Battle, many of you in this room, and I want to thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for continuing to inspire us. We have students in this room right now with us who are forging that continuing chain of greatness and importance to the legal community throughout the rest of the state of New York. Congratulations on this well-deserved honor, and thank you so much for all that you have done for the University of Buffalo School of Law, for the people of Buffalo, Erie County, the state of New York, and now apparently Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Aviva. And maybe Mike wants to hire Aviva as his new public relations director. A strong and thoughtful jurist, Salvatore Martosci was designated to serve on the Appellate Division 4th Department on May 3rd, 2004 by Governor George Pataki. Justice Martosci was U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Western New York. I'm so used to saying Western District of New York, from 1982 to 1986. And as Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Labor Department under President Reagan from 1986 to 88, Martosci also oversaw all law enforcement operations in the U.S. Treasury Department as an Assistant Secretary under both Presidents Reagan and President Bush. Before leaving service, the Honorable Martosci was a key official involved in correcting the country's savings and loan industry scandals of the 1980s, serving as acting director of the Office of Thrift Supervision. Prior to his election to the Supreme Court, he served as one of 6 commissioners of the State Commission of Investigation, which investigates allegations of organized crime and public corruption statewide. He is widely credited with significant reforms in the Federal Witness Protection Program. One of his most celebrated cases served as the basis of a book and a movie called Hide in Plain Sight. If you haven't seen it, it's really interesting. But again, it is because of his interest in this area that the book and the movie was inspired. Justice Martosci is the recipient of so many awards, it's almost impossible to list, so I'll just pick a few, including the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, the Alexander Hamilton Award, which is an award of highest distinction given by the Secretary of the Treasury, the Buffalo News Outstanding Citizen Award, and the LaSalle Medal and Distinguished Alumni Award from his alma mater, Canisius College. Since retirement from the bench in 2013, from the Appellate Division 4th Department, he engaged in private practice, became active in ADR work as a mediator, and became also actively involved in the community. He's a strong and compassionate advocate for those that are in need of assistance, and he's in particularly active with his wife, Mary Dee, for legislation to change the opiate epidemic that we're suffering and working towards opiate reform and the expansion of mental health treatment, all in honor of their daughter, Claire. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce formally Honorable Salvatore Martosci. Who will introduce Michael Battle.
Well, thank you very much, Ann. I feel like I just won an award. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. As you can tell, I'm old by all the things I've done, but Michael's done just as many things, and he's a lot younger. I don't understand it. It's been a very interesting few days for me. I have some mobility issues, and so it's tough to get around. I love New York City, but I don't get here very much anymore because it's difficult for me to navigate this town. But I had to come for this. We started off, Mary Dee and I got off a plane on Wednesday, and we headed over to the theater and saw To Kill a Mockingbird. Yesterday afternoon, we had lunch at our favorite old restaurant on the Upper East Side, Paola's, with her favorite cousin. And then last night, we watched as our son-in-law, Tim Hoover, was installed as the president of the New York State Defenders Association, and our great friend, Terry Connors, was honored as the Criminal Lawyer of the Year. You know, that's a sort of a misnomer. He's the Lawyer of the Year, whether it's criminal, civil, or whatever it is. But anyway, and today, the pinnacle of our trip here, to be here to help honor Michael and to be honored by Michael by him asking me to introduce him and say a few words. Well, Michael, you know I can't say hello in less than 1,000 words, so it won't be a few words, but I've got you all here and you can't do anything about it. I do wish that your mother, Alice Clay, who's, I know, 97 years old, could have joined us today. She would have loved to have been here, but it's a little bit difficult. I know Michael's children tried very hard to get her to come. But she's here in spirit, as is your Aunt Mary Horn. These two ladies, these two wonderful ladies who I've met over and over again, have played such a significant role in this tremendous journey that Michael's taken. So, all I can say is after looking again at the previous awardees of the Jekyll, I said these impressive words, holy cow. I mean, it's a pantheon of legal and judicial giants, not only in Buffalo and Western New York, but really in the nation. I couldn't help but reminisce about some of my old mentors, some of my old friends and colleagues who have been honored to receive this award and who deserve it, richly deserve it. But there's no one more deserving of this award than Michael A. Battle, and I'm so glad to play a small part in honoring him. I was so impressed with Michael Battle that I hired him twice. The first time when he was a law student at the University of Buffalo, I hired him to work in the Pretrial Services Agency, where incidentally Terry Connors worked. It was called the Prisoner Release Program at the time he worked there. That's how long ago that was. And frankly, Dean Aviva, your dad, as you know, was an integral part of that. For those of you who didn't know, Abe Abramowski, just the best of the best, went on to have a legendary career as a teacher at Fordham Law School and wrote a column in the New York Law Journal on international criminal law. Just this fabulous guy, left us too early. It's taken until now for bail reform that we were advocating and trying to push for 40 years ago to become a reality in New York. frankly, it needs a little tweaking, but it's a terrific step forward for the state. I remember, Michael, during your interview, I stressed, as I did with everyone, that you had to be in the lockup at the City Court of Buffalo at 6 a.m. And the weather in Buffalo, car trouble, illness, nothing would be an excuse for not showing up, because the people that we were trying to help depended on us. And you, without hesitation, Michael, said to me, Mr. Martocci, the ability to post cash bail should not determine who remains in jail and who doesn't, especially for people who aren't convicted of anything. The only thing that should matter is if they're a flight risk or not. There are as many good people, he said, who are poor as there are who are rich, maybe more. Now, I don't know, Michael, if you remember those words to me, but I never forgot them. Of course, he got hired on the spot and had a tremendous impact. By the way, I don't know if anyone knows what it was that brought Michael to Buffalo. You might say the reputation of a great law school, but I think maybe there was some other reason. Michael came to law school in Buffalo because while he was playing tight end at Ithaca College and studying every hour of the day and night, he somehow found time to fall head over heels in love with a gal from Buffalo by the name of Sheila Jones. And he followed her to Buffalo, or should I say, he went to her home in Buffalo 2 years before she had to finish at Ithaca College, and he lived with her family for 2 years in Buffalo, I think, while she was finishing up. Now, it is just such an odyssey that Michael has taken. After he graduated from law school, I had a conversation with Michael, and I said, you know, I'm going to be appointed as the United States Attorney. I'd really like to have you come and join us. And Michael said, well, I really would love that. He said, but I've accepted a position with the Bronx Legal Aid. And I said, well, that's good, but I said, you know, this is an opportunity you shouldn't pass up. And Michael said, Mr. Martocci, it's time to pay back. It's time for me to show that the system can work and to do my best to help. I said, well, Michael, if you change your mind or you decide that you want to join us later, I'll always find a place for you in my office. And sure enough, in a couple of years, I got a call from Michael, and he said, if that offer is still open, I'd like to join you. I said, Michael, I told you a long time ago that we would always have a place for you, because I knew from our many conversations he would buy into the philosophy of our office, which was really fair and balanced prosecutions with respect for the power that we wielded in the name of the United States of America. We would not win at all costs, but when we did, there's a guy named Rod Personius here in this room who served with Michael for a good long time, and I think he can attest, as can Michael, to the incredible group of people that we had working in that office. Some who became lawyers and judges and district attorneys and U.S. attorneys and great, great practitioners of law. It was a wonderful little law firm. They worked day and night, they worked as a team, they worked together, and justice was done. It was terrific. People like Don Oliverio and Joe Guerra, who was my first hire and is still in the office to this day. He used to be called Young Joe because there was a guy named Joe Mastret who was Old Joe, and now Young Joe is Old Joe. I don't know what that makes Old Joe. There was a guy in that office at that time for a summer with us, a Japanese prosecutor who spent a summer trying to learn the U.S. judicial system, and the DOJ asked me if he could come and spend some time with us. Masahiro Tauchi was his name. And they all worked under the watchful eye of the best first assistant anybody could ever have, Roger P. Williams. And I tell you that he served as the interim district attorney and U.S. attorney on numerous occasions. And he is and was and is and always will be the best of the best. Michael will tell you what it was like working with this group. They loved him. They loved Michael, even though he never had one beer, not one, with them. They loved him anyway. If he did, he didn't tell Sheila about it. I didn't recognize it right away, but Michael and I had a lot more in common than we originally knew. We were both sort of Rolling Stones. We took on new assignments eagerly and without hesitation. Michael went on to be in charge of the New York State Attorney General's Buffalo office, where he was again reunited with another former U.S. attorney, the distinguished Dennis Vacco. And then he was a judge on the family court. He was one of the first federal defenders in the Western District. He's had a very varied career, and he served with such distinction as United States Attorney before he left to accept a position as the director of the Executive Office of U.S. Attorneys, which managed the offices at a very crucial and trying time, I might add. Unlike Mary Dee and me, Michael and Sheila did not ultimately return to Buffalo, but instead shuttled between Washington and New York City. He's been a partner in some of the largest and most prestigious law firms in America, and success has followed Michael wherever he has served. I have always believed that if he returned to Buffalo, he would very likely have been the first African-American federal district court judge, just as he was the first African-American United States attorney in that district. Selfishly, for our community, I wish he had done that. One of the most curious intersections of our journey together involves an old football coach of Michael's at DeWitt Clinton High School. Now, this just wasn't any coach. This was a volunteer line coach who had a son that played on the team. And he wrote a very compelling letter to Ithaca College, which helped Michael secure a football scholarship there. He was a union organizer and an aspiring actor. His name was Dan Aiello. And by some quirk of fate, he played me, or more accurately should say, a character based on my involvement in a case of mine, which you heard about earlier, Hide in Plain Sight. It was not a good movie, and I don't expect many people here remember the movie or the book. But we probably, by the opinion heightening of things, we helped the witness protection to become a better program. As a guy named Jerry Scher, who worked at the Justice Department, once said, he said, I was the only guy who ever sued him for $40 million that he liked and respected. Although I was unaware of the coincidence for a long time, when Michael and I discovered it, it wasn't long before Dan Aiello was scheduled to appear at a casino in Niagara Falls. Now, I don't know much about casinos, and Michael knows less than I do about casinos, but Dan Aiello, who was a pretty good singer as well as an actor, was going to be there, and So I didn't know anybody, but I knew a guy who knew a guy. So I called Judge Joe Mattina, also a prior recipient of the Jekyll Award, and I said, "Can you help?" Well, I'll just say we had a wonderful evening and a wonderful reunion. I think Aiello was happy to see me, but he was overjoyed to see Michael and to meet Shirley, to meet Sheila, and to see what Michael had done with his life. Who would have ever thought that there'd be this kind of coincidence in our lives? I tried, Michael, to get Dan Aiello to join us today as a surprise to you, but unfortunately, literally, in the middle of my efforts to get him, I heard that he passed away. And I actually heard it watching a newscast with Spike Jones talking about him. However, I do have a surprise for you, Michael. Your award, this Jekyll Award, is being celebrated not only in Buffalo and throughout New York State, not even just the United States, but I mentioned Masahiro Tauchi before, and Masahiro, who rose to be the #2 prosecutor in the Japanese justice system, is now the Japanese ambassador to Norway, which is a very significant job because of the strategic relationship between the two countries. And I have a certificate from Masahiro. I don't know. Here it is. Now, Michael, I'm not going to ask you to come up and get it because you got a lot of stuff, a lot of loot coming. But I will just say, since my Japanese is not terrific anymore, it used to be good, but I asked that Masahiro send a translation. So, Michael, we'll be celebrating around the world your wonderful honor today. Michael has a wonderful and accomplished life partner, Sheila, his wife of over 30 years, and she's, of course, here to help him celebrate. And I can honestly say, I don't think Michael would have been half the success he has become without the love and devotion and help of Sheila. And his 3 children, all beautiful and successful, are also here. Elise, where are you, Elise? Elise, there you are. You're the director of the special education program at Trinity School, and I understand you're doing just a fabulous job over there. Nicole is an AUSA in the District of Columbia and just got a big promotion over there. Congratulations, knock 'em dead. And young Michael, who played hoops at Wesleyan, is now the principal of an extraordinary and very successful charter school in New York. The accomplishments of his students, almost all of whom are African American and Latino, low-income families, is disproving the terrible stereotypes which have held people down who simply didn't have the means to get what they needed to succeed. I know Michael has been a mentor and an inspiration to many, some of whom are in this room. And I look at Kevin Carter, Judge Kevin Carter, and I recognize he and Michael as great friends, and he's one who has been tremendously, I think, impressed and motivated by Michael's accomplishments and help. One way that Michael Battle and I are different, I like to talk. He likes to listen. I wish I were more like Mike. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, many people will walk in and out of our lives, but only true friends will leave footprints on our hearts. Mike has left big footprints on the hearts of many in this room today, including me. Thank you, Michael, for being you.
Thank you, Sal, for that wonderful introduction for Mike. And I'm just going to say a few words. Mike is an exceptional and accomplished lawyer who epitomizes strength and compassion, steely grit, and warmth of heart. You've heard all of his accolades, his achievements. You've been introduced to his passion. And now let me give you some insight into the man behind these impressive achievements. We have spoken to several people, including Elise, Nicole, and Michael Battle Jr. So an interesting picture emerges with some consistent themes. I take full responsibility for the way I'm conveying it, so kids, you're safe. Tough exterior, professional demeanor, but he has a softness and a gentleness. Dennis Bacco says his professional decisions may come across as cold, hard, calculated, and a very strong legal strategy, but the decisions also come from his heart and from his gentleness. And that's why they're always correct. Rod Personius, a former colleague at the U.S. Attorney's Office, says of Mike, he's solid as a rock. He's calm, trustworthy, reliable, intellectually and physically strong. And he never shows himself to be anything other than extraordinarily confident in his own capabilities. But he also shares that confidence and the skills with others. Judge Kevin Carter relates that when he was in law school and working in the U.S. Attorney's Office as an assistant U.S. attorney, it was very difficult for people of color to get in with firms or public agencies without knowing anyone. Kevin got to know Mike while they were playing basketball at Canisius College. And so Mike invited him down to the office and personally spoke to the U.S. attorney, the acting U.S. attorney, and he was able to get him an introduction and eventually a job as an intern at the office. So he took him under his wing and showed him the way. And that's another wonderful attribute that Mike has, of taking people under his wing and showing them the way. Again, never judgmental. When he was studying for the bar exam, Kevin said that he would invite Kevin to his office. So while he was working, writing briefs, preparing for cases, he would also help Kevin understand the law, ask him questions, refine his answers. So this kind of mentorship is something that is so very, very important to Mike and to those he has mentored. The instinct to help others can also be seen in this story as told by Mike Battle Jr. All three children, which are no longer children, they are absolutely wonderfully established adults. But as they were growing up, as they were children, each says that through his actions, Mike was always teaching them, always teaching him with his words, but most importantly, with his actions. One time, Mike and Mike Jr. were driving home on the east side, and it was pouring rain. They saw these kids fighting on the corner, and it was clearly not a fair fight because one kid was getting jumped pretty bad by a gang of others. So what does Mike Sr. do? He pulls over the car, he hops out. It's in the middle of the pouring rain, and if you understood, and we'll understand in a few minutes how he feels about his clothes, then you can know that this was tough for him to do. But he intervened, saved the kid, gave him a ride home. And that story just illustrates how Mike the dad has taught Mike the son and the two daughters how to stand up for what was right, even when it was a risk to yourself, and even though it was incredibly hard. And not looking for a thanks anywhere in that. So those are the kinds of things that you will see time and time again, you will hear time and time again about his generous heart, his kindness, his softness, and yet to the world, he is this tough advocate for justice and law. My favorite quote, however, is the fact that he's an impeccable dresser. A sharp dresser keeps coming up. So sharp, says one of his former colleagues at the U.S. Attorney's Office, Mike DiGiacomo, that he had his own tailor. Mike had an open door policy. Door open, anyone can come in, get advice, didn't matter who you were. However, if you saw the door closed, everybody knew Mike was with his tailor. Definitely an exquisite dresser. And no one, or I should say, we all can imagine that the care and the impeccable way he dresses is the same way he dresses his cases for court, with a great deal of care in preparing them and making sure that everything is perfect. As Dennis Vacco has said, if I'm a clothes horse, Mike is a Clydesdale. So with that, I give you Mike Battle. Give you the award first, okay?
No, we took the picture with the award.
The award.
Whoops.
So we've been talking about this award all afternoon. It'd be nice if we gave it to him. So I am introducing Aviva again and, Scott, right.
I'm here. I moved.
Right behind me to present formally the award.
Okay, let's get first things first. Is my tie straight? Wow, this is exciting. Eileen promised me this wasn't going to be a roast, but it was a kind roast, and I thank you very much. And thank you to the University of Buffalo Law School so much for this most prestigious award. And Scott Becker called me a few months ago to tell me that I would receive the award. Scott was very nice in his comments today. He didn't tell you how I reacted. I was in the office, and it was an off day. I think it might have been a holiday or something. And I was just sitting there as I normally do, working. And when Scott called me, and with my telephone, I could see a 716 number coming up, but I didn't recognize that as Kevin Carter's number. So I was wondering, who is calling me on a holiday? And I picked up the phone, knowing that at least from Buffalo, it wasn't going to be a scammer. And Scott was on the phone and introduced himself to me. He told me who he was, and I said, oh, God, this guy's going to start asking me for money. And he didn't, and he told me about the award, and I was familiar with the award because I've known, as you've heard today, about all the past recipients. And I'm not going to say to you that I didn't believe it, that I thought he was joking, because I didn't know Scott well enough to know that he would do such a thing. But I was absolutely shocked, and I told him that. And I said, when you think of the people that I've heard about that have received this award in the past years, I couldn't figure out how I would fit in that company. And he told me that I did, and he also told me that that receiving the award, when the vote was taken, that it was unanimous. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I appreciate that. Didn't think much of it until 2 weeks ago when I heard that Derek Jeter did not get a unanimous vote to enter the Baseball Hall of Fame. And since then, I've thought about calling Derek, but I figured he wouldn't want to talk about it. But to Dean Abramowski, an old friend who was way too kind today to tell you a little bit more about how well I knew her dad and how close we had become as friends. He was one of my professors in criminal procedure for 2 semesters, and we became friends. And the way we became friends was because I enjoyed his course so much that I had an abiding interest in criminal law, but most importantly at that time in studying the juvenile justice system. And they had just changed the JO law in New York State, and I wanted to study it. And so he encouraged me to do it, and we sort of embarked on a very loose independent study where I spent the semester as one of my courses studying that law and learning a lot about it. And I did a good job, and he gave me a good grade for it. And he, realizing my interest in criminal law, just stayed in touch with me over time. And when he did not become a professor at UB, but continued at Pace and then on to Fordham, we stayed in touch over the years. Many times when I would visit back home in New York during breaks, we would get together and hang out and be, have lunch and do things together. And actually, he introduced me to falafel. And he told me that falafel was what the New York hot dog was on the streets of New York. And I've loved falafel since then. I've introduced my wife to it, and she makes it all the time. But on one occasion when I was home visiting, I had a legal issue that I wanted to discuss. And I called Abe up, and we agreed, again, as we had done in the past, to meet for lunch. And we sort of couldn't figure out where to meet, and he decided to invite me to his home, which I thought, that's cool. I'd never been to a law professor's home. But he and I were becoming friends fast. And I entered his home, and I was with my cousin Willie, who was with me. We drove up to White Plains at the time. And had this beautiful corner house, which Aviva won't tell all you guys, but was later featured in a very popular movie. A lot of movie themes around here today. But later, and Without a Trace, they used that home. And I think your dad told me the house was redecorated by Hollywood. Yep. And at no cost to you. And I remember sitting in the living room that day talking to Abe and your mom and Aviva. Now, that might not seem strange because Abe was a little older than I was, and his wife was a little older. But Aviva was 3 years old. and she sat in this big wing-back chair talking to me and my cousin Willie about all kinds of stuff. Stuff that 3-year-olds don't talk about. And so we finished the day and we got everything done, and Willie, who was not a law student, we got in the car to drive home, and he looked at me, he said, "Who was that kid?" And so when I called him several weeks ago to tell him about this award and to tell him that kid is not a dean at UB Law School, he said, "Oh, I get it now." I definitely get it now. But to Dean Abramowski and the faculty and staff that are present, and to my dear friend Eileen Fleischman, who has been taking care of me for so long, I really appreciate receiving this award. To the UB Alumni Association, Scott Becker, and everyone associated with that unanimous vote that I now have over Derek Jeter. I'm so happy and so honored to receive this award. And as you know, I am joined by my family today, and Sal was so gracious in introducing everyone. And there's one thing that he did leave out, and I will tell you that in June 7th of 2020, my wife Sheila and I will be married 40 years. And we dated for 5 years before that, so it's been a really long time, and honey, I don't know how you stand it. But Sal also mentioned that my 97-year-old mom is not here with us today, just for physical reasons, but everyone will tell you she is as sharp as a tack. And just to inject a little bit of politics in this, very lightly, she is a raving Democrat. and she knows that I'm a Republican and still can't figure out where she went wrong. And even today, she's got so much ammunition, but she's real kind about it. And my Aunt Mary, those two ladies, those two strong ladies from Lexington, Kentucky, who were joined at the hip until my aunt went home several years ago, just preached to us at a very early age. And my cousin Marilyn will tell you, she is now the second matriarch of the family, will tell you that they always told us that education was everything, because we understood they grew up at a time when getting an education was maybe a limited choice, and in some situations not a choice at all. So they told us that if you want to have any success in this great country, that's what you're going to have to do. And so we all took that very seriously, and we all strove to achieve and do well in that area. You know, as I said, when Scott told me about the award, and I thought about some of the people who had received it in the past, I know that there are 4 of them here today, and Judge Pigott, Terry Connors, Annie Vanko, and I said Judge Barbara Howe. These are men and women that I looked up to throughout my career. They were people that I had heard about when I was practicing, heard great things about, and when I heard that they received the awards, I wasn't surprised at all. I hope you guys would afford me the same. Just kidding. But at the end of the day, I'm going to finish up in a moment. You all know my career bio, and you also know that none of us achieves very much success over life by themselves. You do it with a lot of people standing in front of you, leading you, standing at your left and your right, standing beside you, guiding, mentoring, and giving you credit and encouragement along the way. And if I thank everyone that has helped me in this regard, we will be here for another 3 hours, but you know who you are. But what I will say is I get the chance today to be honored and to accept this award as part of a gigantic group effort, so thank all of you so very much. But at the end of the day, none of what I've done at all, none of it happens without having attended UB Law School. All that I have been able to accomplish is a result of having benefited from a firm foundation, and in this case, a very solid legal education. And I live to perform as an attorney every day with lawyers from all over the country and lawyers from all over the world, educated in many other law schools, and in every case, I get a chance to lead sometimes, to work alongside, and to hold my own, and to think in the back of my mind, UB Law School is in the house. Every week, and my wife will tell you this, I find myself sitting in a meeting with other lawyers, judges, opponents, and very often I find myself saying, you know, I don't know what you guys are fussing about. That's just basic civil procedure, torts, evidence, things I've learned at the knee of some of the phenomenal professors and teachers at UB Law School. And you guys that have been out for as long as I have, you know that stuff never leaves you at all. I'm going to wrap up in a moment, but I'm going to tell you one little story which I promised my wife I was going to do, and she gave me permission to do it. One time when my wife and I were out together, she left something in the car, and the window was slightly open. I said, honey, you can't leave that there. She said, why? And all the lawyers in the room will understand this. I said, that's an attractive nuisance. And fast forward many years later when my daughter Nicole, who is now a lawyer, and I didn't see this firsthand, but my wife told me that she was talking to Nicole about something, and she said to Nicole, you can't do that. Nicole said, why? She said, that's an attractive nuisance. And my wife said, Nicole looked at her and said, where did you learn that? And she laughed. But it was a great opportunity for me to understand that I'd been just talking like a lawyer for way too long. So at the end of it all, folks, thank you very much to UB Law School for preparing me to enter a profession and alongside so many others, perform, compete, and succeed. And for the gift of this prestigious award, I thank you twice for giving me the opportunity for you to celebrate my doing of simply what you prepared me to do and what you told me I could be able to do, and allowing so others to help me do. Thank you so very much for this award.
Thank you all for participating in this wonderful event, for honoring Michael Battle, and for supporting the law school once again. And one additional recognition for Mike: Satish Tripathi, who is the president of the State University of New York at Buffalo, has also created a letter of acknowledgement, thanks, and laudatory remarks, so that will be hand-delivered to Mike next week. So thank you again for being here and for supporting Mike and supporting the law school. Thank you.